Hello and welcome to the Wheel of Crime podcast, the podcast that it does things. Also, it plays games, shouts profanities, and laughs way too often. Also, this podcast does cover topics of sensitive nature, and as such, listener discretion is advised.
Hello, and welcome back to Wheel of Crime podcast. My name is M.
My name is Jenn.
Just kidding. We swapped. I'm Jenn.
Yes, that's Jenn. I'm M. And yes, welcome back, everybody. We are here for another week of the Wheel of Crime podcast. So, Jenn.
I mean, I guess it doesn't really matter. I can be M, you can be Jenn. Who's to say?
Who is to say? I do feel like we don't address each other by each other's names that often on the show, except for right here in the beginning. So
yeah, we're just kind of this girl and that girl.
Maybe that can be an April Fool's prank for next year. Is we'll just pretend to be each other because nobody would know except for our listeners who tune in every week, and they'd be like, "You guys are idiots," which is also true. So that's fair.
It would just be factual at that point.
Yeah. Oh my god. Well, what have you been up to this last week that you think is fun and fabulous to share on the show?
I have been doing my boxing still, which is really fun. I really do enjoy hitting things, not gonna lie, and throwing things to the ground. Really fun. Mm-hmm. But I've also been trying really hard to get my steps in as well.
Oh, yes.
And man, my struggle with that is I'm just like, I get really bored and I'm just like, I just want to go home.
Yeah. I think for me, I get the steps thing because it just doesn't feel interesting enough. There is one place where I've noticed that I can get my steps in without it feeling like a burden. And it is a very specific bird walking trail that my husband likes to take down by the river, close to the place where we come from, by a golf course.
Yes.
That because it's dynamic, right? That they've got hills and that part of it is in sidewalks, so it's like there's lots of things. If you follow the cross country skiing track basically around the place, it takes you to see like a bunch of different things, and then suddenly by the end of it, I'm like, wow, I can't believe I did that. Whereas I feel like if I'm trying to just like walk around where I live, I'm like, wow, things are kind of a little bit boring. That's a lot of pavement and a lot of grass and a lot of cars, a lot of houses. A lot of people, a lot of dogs, and that's it. At the very least, if you put on like an audiobook or a podcast or whatever, it kind of feels a little bit like you can mentally check out. But then...
That's what I've been doing, but like, man, I'm just like, it doesn't help that my dog, so lazy. So fucking lazy. I'm like, hello, I'm trying to get my steps in, and he like, we get to a certain place every day on our walk, and then he's just like, done and wants to turn around, and I'm like, you want me to be fat forever? Is that what you're trying to say?
You're like, you're actually my hater. That's what you are. You're literally preying on my downfall.
You are literally playing on my downfall. I'm like, you're just so skinny. I'm trying to be like that.
Yeah, he's like, why do I have to be here? I'm so thin. And you're like, listen, quit being a little turkey. But no,
stop bullying me.
Yeah, stop picking on me. It reminds me of, I used to live in a place where a lot of cars drove through to yet again approximate where I used to live. And when I lived there, it was in kind of an apartment style building. And I remember there was this lady who I used to run into in the hall all the time, and she had a huge husky. And she was talking in the elevator one day on her phone, and she was saying how she was trying to get her steps in, but her husky would do the same thing where like they'd get halfway through and then quit. So she started bringing like a baby carrier, basically like a backpack, and just if the dog didn't want to be whatever anymore, she would carry him. She'd be like, whatever. I guess I carry you now. And I was like, you know what?
I mean, I have done that like the last couple of times. I mean, my dog is 11 pounds, so I'm like, this is just like, I'm putting on some like arm weights or something.
Yeah, you're right. You're like, it's me and my pet dumbbell. We're going out for a walk, guys.
Literally.
You could just like start like doing arm curls with him if you want, like up over the head tricep stuff, right?
Exactly.
He'd love it. He would not try to bite you at all.
No, he would be totally chill with that.
It's so chill. No, there was something you said that reminded me of what I've been up to this week. But oh yes, I remember. So if everybody was deciding to keep track for the last 5 months on my reading habits that I talked about on the show, which are terrible by the way, I did finally finish Iron Flame. Woo! Yay! Jen's only been waiting forever. So
I have.
Yeah.
And now we're starting Onyx Storm. We've already both started, I think.
Yes. I don't know what chapter I'm on because I've been doing the audiobook, but I did start it. I will say, if you are somebody who is currently reading the Fourth Wing series, also known as the Empyrean by Rebecca Yarros, you might want to skip this next part. So I want to do a little small review while we're here. So out of 5 stars, what do you give the book?
Iron Flame?
Yeah.
I'm somewhere between a 3.5 and a 4.
Yeah.
I think maybe I'm somewhere between a 3 and a 4. I don't know.
For a treat.
The first part was like dragon.
Yes. So for
that's
me,
not a pun.
As a treat, it was dragon. Dragon, not a pun. No, because for me, I on my Goodreads definitely rated it a 3 out of 5.
Yeah.
For pretty much the same reason. I feel like again, if this is a book series you're reading, or if there's somebody reading with you, please just skip ahead. 3, 2, 1. That's it. Final warning. The beginning, the main character, Violet, all I remember is like literally for like 200 pages. All that happened is she was just tortured constantly. Her and Xaden are one of those like super cringy couples that can't keep their hands off themselves, like the kind that you were in school with.
Mm-hmm.
And it just lasted forever. It went on for so long. The only interesting things in the book happened in part 2 onwards. I didn't even get why part 1 was there. I'm like, okay, I guess like there needed to be the setting being set of like, we need these books and blah, 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 blah. But like at a certain point, I was like, I've had enough, I think. Like, this is not fun anymore.
It was rough, but then I feel like the part 2 payoff is pretty good.
It definitely picked up a lot.
I did cry at the part where like she sees Liam in the cave.
Yes,
I think you did too, because you texted me and I was like, I know, I'm literally like shedding tears over here.
That was literally from when I started the book up until she saw Liam, which happens right before you get into part 2. That was the first interesting thing to me that happened in that book.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, like, yeah, cried there. I cried at the end when General Sorengale died. Like, that was crazy. Lots of things going on. Like, just way more interesting. But yeah, that was a journey. I do have a tougher time now understanding some people I know, because I feel like if you get into reading, you definitely kind of pick up on a community of people that read a little bit. I have so many people who have said that this series is like in their top 5 favorite series that they've read of all time. So I'm like, maybe I'm just too critical.
I like it a lot, but I can also recognize the flaws within it. Personally, I have been loving Rebecca Yarros' standalone romance novels a lot more. I think they're like one of the ones she wrote, what's it called? The Things We Leave Unfinished. Bawling. Like literal. I was listening to the audiobook of it while I was outside walking in like October, November-ish. And I was just like outside on the street, just crying my eyes out, like inconsolably. And I like came home and my husband was like, oh my god, like what happened? Like thinking I'd been freaking attacked on the street, because like eyes like swollen shut. And I was just like, it's just so sad.
See, but that's what I mean. Like, I feel like there's definitely areas in which she is a very strong writer, but I feel like it didn't really get to be showcased very much until closer to the end, which is a little bit disappointing. But I will ask you, since we've read a few romance books together, like romance fantasy, where do Violet and Xaden stand as far as like your favorite couples?
Oh, they're just so cringy. I like them together.
But do you feel that way genuinely? I know I've expressed that, but do you genuinely feel like they're a cringy couple?
Yeah. Like, I kind of get secondhand embarrassment from them sometimes. I don't mind them. I think they're cute together. The possessiveness that he has over her is not my cup of tea. Like, I don't really like stuff like that. So whenever he's like, you are my blah, 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 I'm like, literally, shut up. Shut up right now.
For me, and this may specifically be because I have a very mild background in military related stuff, there's just very specific things. Like, we walked out of the meeting and he could sense that I was upset, and we held hands in front of the entire committee or whatever the fuck. And it's just stuff like that where I'm like PDA, whatever. I don't really give a fuck. But I feel like there's also a time and place for certain things. Like, it's just very weird where some of these things are going on, or it's like, and we make out with each other in front of the entire room of people who are standing there waiting on orders. And I'm like,
it's the PDA in front of Violet's family that kind of gives me a major ick. I'm like, can you not make out in front of her sister? Like, just chill out for a sec.
Dude, there was one scene in, obviously, Iron Flame, because we're now on Awning Storm. You're probably knowing what I'm talking about. They're hot and heavy
when
in
she
the
goes
room.
to the base.
Yeah, somebody is outside the room, and they're like, you've got 5 minutes before we're coming in. And they're all like, blah, 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 blah. And then all of a sudden, like, the door opens or whatever, and it's like her brother. And I'm like,
yeah.
And then he's like, I hope you guys weren't fucking or something. And I'm like,
I know, I was like, oh, I'm gonna die of embarrassment.
I was like, speaking as a person who has siblings, I would literally rather kill myself than ever be implicated in any kind of situation where my siblings or family members of any kind, of any relation, cousin, whatever, is walking in or overhearing me with anybody.
Having sex.
Period. I
know. I'd rather die, personally. Right? So, I like them together in this book, like this series. I think that they work and, you know, whatever. But, like, sometimes they do things and I'm like, you're really cringy.
Yeah,
and, like, when he says violence, I get a little bit of, like, ick. I'm like, ew.
It's not... Like, I get that it's tough with pet names, especially with authors, because I feel like specifically in the romance genre, it gets very redundant occasionally on what people are using as pet names. Violet to Violence is not the worst one. I'm not a super huge fan of the way it's used, though. Like you said, the context specifically is always a little bit strange for me. And I think the reason I don't like the relationship is that I get that they're supposed to be younger and living through life or death situations. So this might be a weird thing to say. I feel like if the tone of the book is you've got younger people who are basically high school age who are being put into or high school, college, we'll say, who are being put into like life or death situations where they need to grow up fast, I don't think they would be having very juvenile relationships like this. Because you would feel like you've mentally outpaced your partner in a way. Does that make sense? Yeah.
I agree. I also do kind of ship her with Dane still.
It's so bad for me because I feel like it very much reminds me of actually Throne of Glass with the main character and what's his nuts. It's not been that long. So Throne of Glass main character Celine, she was with that one guy in the beginning who's a total dickhead, right?
Yeah. Why can't I remember their names?
I don't know. I keep wanting to call him Tamlin. But it's like the same thing, right?
He basically is Tamlin.
It's basically the same thing. It's girl comes in, first love, boo-boo, this shit guy. And then dark-haired guy, crazy in love. Like, that's kind of how it works. But weirdly enough, I kind of feel like, as far as, like...
Rowan.
Yeah. Who's the black-haired
is
one?
her mate. Dorian. Yeah. Dorian's the king guy. And then... Oh, fuck. Who is it?
The guy in the wheelchair. Kale!
Kale!
It kind of feels like, because I honestly would have loved her with Dorian too, specific to that. But
Yeah.
that's a different story. But no, this specifically reminds me of like Tamlin, Rhysand, what's her face? Celine, Rowan, Kale. Like that dynamic has already been
Not
done and is familiar to
Tamlin.
me. Huh?
Not Tamlin.
Not Tamlin. But in those ones, it's very much like, oh, obviously he's the evil ex. Funny enough, with Dane and specifically their interactions, I kind of feel like he's been very respectful of her. He is acting more of an adult, in my opinion, than either Violet or Xaden is, which is crazy. And then on top of that, it's like his abilities or whatever kind of makes sense in regards to like how she had been behaving up until that point. And then also she keeps using the measuring stick of like Violet, of being like, he's not like what it was like when we were kids. Like I just want things to be like when we were kids. And it's like, you guys are both in a war college killing people, riding dragons, and he's probably at the very least came the best he could out of this. All things considered.
I kind of also
there was like a
what
scene
is
with
his
her
name?
and Dane
The,
where I
like,
feel like there was like tension, even like romantic tension, and I was like,
yeah. I could also see her with I can't remember his fucking name at this moment, but
is it one of her squad mates?
It's the guy who is like in the year below her, who used to be a prince, and he's like hiding.
Oh, I know who you're talking about. You know, I did not consider that, but that's interesting too.
Like, I feel like there's a vibe there, and I would be...
Well, because it's like she's keeping his secret for him.
Yeah.
And he's the rebel prince.
They paired her off so fast with Xaden, and we didn't have a chance to, like, explore any of those other romantic connections, you know?
Yes. No, I agree, because I feel like the part of this book that I wasn't super vibing with is, I feel like in the beginning, most of it was, oh, let's catch up on all this lost romantic time, but it wasn't interesting. Like it was just like two people crazy in love, which is fine, but there's a certain way to be able to make that work. And I feel like when you're engrossed in this much of a fantasy setting at that point, it kind of just felt a little bit forced, in my opinion.
Totally agree. But we have been yapping about this for a really long time, so we should definitely get into our episode. Anybody who
skips over our first session of our show is like, when are these bitches going to shut up? Totally fair. But I did have to say that because it's been so long. So if anybody's been keeping up over the last 5 months, there's your 10 minutes of ranting from yours truly. So, you're welcome.
You're welcome.
But yes, we have an episode. We do. It's true. We do a podcast. And we have an episode.
Hell yeah.
So let's get into our wheel of questions so then I can have Jen guess at what it is we are talking about today. Do you think you would ever accidentally join a cult?
I think I already did.
See, I feel like this is a question we've had on the podcast before, but I figured I'd ask again anyways because it's been a hot minute. But also, what are you talking about?
Okay. Have you ever heard of Othership?
No. What?
Okay, so to give you the lore, Othership is this place in Toronto that's basically like a wellness. It's like they've got cold plunges, they've got saunas, and it's like a guided meditation thing. But they do like, I don't know, like fun mocktails or something like that, and they do like kind of like music stuff on like certain nights. And people in Toronto are calling it a cult. Okay?
Okay.
So it's basically like a sauna cult. And at the gym where I do my boxing, they have something similar. It's not called Othership, it's called something else. But I saw a news clip from CBC the other day that was like comparing them, because I didn't know this, but the one at my boxing place also apparently on Friday nights has like sauna raves where they drink wellness drinks and all this stuff. And I was like, and like people in the comments were being like, yeah, it's Calgary's version of the Othership cult. And I was like, am I in a cult?
You know, it's funny you said that, and I was like, I could go to that.
I've thought about it.
I'm like, Friday night, that's such an unreasonable night. Sunday or Saturday to recover, you're drinking wellness drinks, you're not going to wake up feeling like shit. Some partying. I love to party.
I'm like, so it's a rave, but in the sauna, and they just, like, give you tea, and then you're home by, like, 10 p.m.
I'd be kind of into that. Assuming it wasn't a cult, I would be kind of into that.
So, I don't know. I might be in a cult already. Who's to say? What about you, Em?
I think I would ever accidentally join a cult? Apparently, maybe.
Yes.
I was pretty confident before. I don't know. I'm not like a big club person, so here's the thing. In my life, I have decided that it would probably be a good thing for me to be active in the way of joining clubs, because I do think they're fun and engaging ways to like spend time with people. I think that's fun.
Mm-hmm.
Is that like the doorway into ending up in a cult? Absolutely.
Kinda.
Am I the kind of person who would see something really crazy looking and like take the chance on it? Yeah, because that's who I am as a person. So would I ever accidentally join a cult? I feel like
maybe.
I like to think that I have enough sense of self where if I went into like a seminar that I would clock pretty quickly if it was a cult or not, but I would still go. Does that make sense?
I totally get it. And I feel like we're on exactly the same page about that.
Yeah, and then I would leave and I'd be thinking about it. I'd be like, that was really weird, wasn't it? You know, that might have been a cult.
Maybe I should go back.
It would be me and you sitting somewhere crazy while they do their whole spiel, give us pamphlets, send us out the door, and then it would be like hours later, you and I would be talking. I'd be like, you know, that is so weird. Isn't that just crazy? That was so weird.
It's a little wacky.
It's a little weird. I don't know. I don't think I like it though.
Yeah.
All right, let's spin for our next question. If you ever made a cult, what would it be known for? So again, I was trying to think back to our cult episodes that we've done, because it's typically you who's doing them. I feel like we ask a lot of similar enough questions. We've done the, if you ever made a cult, what would it be for? But this is different. What would your cult, if you made it, be known for? Like, what would be like your mission? Like, what would you be doing that would have people talking about you?
They would be talking about how well my followers take care of me and how rich I am and how pampered I am.
That's a good one. That's a good one. That's a good reason to be known.
They would be like, the cult has so many fine wines and cheeses available at all hours.
Be in your cult. That sounds great.
Yes. Join me.
Join us.
Join me.
Us. Oh my gosh.
Just wire me all of your money and I'll take care of you.
You'll never have to worry ever again. You'll never ever have to pay taxes. They don't exist in my world.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. If I ever made a cult, what would it be known for? I would like to think it's for something incredibly wacky. Incredibly wacky. Like, almost like maybe not this specifically, but like, in order to like become an initiate, you have to go skydiving while I don't know, while doing something crazy. You know what I mean?
So you're gonna haze the fuck out of them.
Yeah, I want to be known for some really baller hazing. Like, not in a way of hurting people, but like in either something really insane or cool.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah to hazing. That's what I say.
Whoa. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, let's spin for our next question.
So what to you is the most unbelievable thing about cults? Because we've talked about a few of them on the show, and there are some things that come up quite a bit when it comes to cult talk. What's something that you think is like totally unbelievable?
I think it always shocks. I don't know. I think it does. I always get shocked, no matter how many cults I talk about the amount of people who aren't even, like, necessarily in the cult circle initially, but are, like, coming from the outside, seeing the crazy shit they're doing, and then decide to join. You know? Like, it takes a very specific kind of person in some very specific circumstances for that to happen. But it seems to happen a lot.
Yeah. No, I get that. For me, it's the fact that, okay, we'll just start with, it seems like most cults are always male-centered cults. Like, the cult leader is a dude. So,
Majority, yeah.
Majority. We have talked about cults where there are women who lead them too, which is, to me, it's a very different feeling. But in my brain, when I'm thinking about, like, what the most unbelievable thing about cults that we've talked about is, it's how in male-centered cults, or male-led cults, I should say, that this dude, whoever he is, somehow manages to convince, like, insane amounts of people to be like, yeah, I'm gonna fuck your wife. To, like, 50 dudes. Just they join, you know, husband, wife, or whatever. He's like, I'm gonna fuck your wife. And they're just like, hell yeah, brother. Like, it's nonsensical to me. I'm like, how does this even happen? He's like, yeah, I got 100 wives. They're all married. But we're married in spirit.
And
I don't understand.
And she's having my baby.
Yeah. It doesn't make any sense to me. I think specifically because in regular society, people have such insane jealousy issues when it comes to, you know, partnerships and who their partners are friends with. Like, I feel like that's generally the norm.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, I may have to bring my kittens inside because something crazy's happening. But regardless, it's like, you know, whatever this is happening, and usually the dudes are super ugly, right? So now you have this really ugly man coming up to you and your wife and being like, hey, brother, I'm gonna fuck your wife and she's gonna have my baby and then you're gonna raise it. And he's just like,
hell yeah.
Yes, that's what I want. I don't get it.
And you're gonna give me all your money.
Yeah, and you're gonna be broke because guess what? You're gonna work 24/7 because I'm too busy fucking your wife. And then all of the money you make working, you're going to give to me. And then you're going to raise my baby with your wife. Like, it's just, and like that comes up so often. I'm like,
it's mayhem.
Manhem. It's manhem.
Truly. All right, well, should we spin for our final question?
Yes. Where in Canada to you is the most likely place for a cult to be?
Oh, for sure in Manitoba.
That was my first thought, and then I thought a little bit more. I think I would actually settle on BC.
I think Manitoba or Saskatchewan. Because I've driven through Saskatchewan and seen some weird cult-like shit on the side of the road and been like, I'm just gonna keep going.
You know, I also forgot, because I've driven through Saskatchewan and seen the same type of thing. I blocked it out, I think. I landed on BC because I've heard so many stories from people who either used to live in BC or currently spend a lot of time in BC. And it's always like psychedelic stories. And I'm like, that would be the place where somebody, you know, takes a little bit too much of something crazy. And all of a sudden there's like a little commune where they only grow carrots and do shrooms.
In like the mainland or lower mainland, though, it would be in like rural BC, rural Prince George area.
BC, like beside the Alaskan highway.
Exactly.
Oh, 100%. But, want to take a guess as to what my story for you is today?
A Canadian cult.
I'm very hopeful. I did try to look up our cult list, but we do get a little bit fancy with the names sometimes to see if you've talked about this one before. I don't think you have. It's a little nutso bananas.
Okay.
But you tell me if we've covered this before. If we have, this will just be a fresh take, I guess, because I've been having a tough time with some of our past episodes versus our new episodes recently.
All right. Well, what is it? Tell me, Em.
The Order of the Solar Temple.
Doesn't sound familiar to me.
Nice. It was tough. I literally came up with the notes for this and I was like, what if Jen's already talked about it? Because I don't normally do cult stories.
It's true. But I feel like it fits in with the vibe of what you do.
Right? It's, and this one is specifically a little bit more, I would say, strange, than it is criminally offensive. Like, I feel like all cults are criminally offensive. But you're right, it does tread into the territory of, like, ambiguity on cuckoo, crazy, bananas things.
Mm-hmm.
So, my description for you is the Order of the Solar Temple, or simply the Solar Temple, was a new religious movement and secret society, often described as a cult, notorious for the mass deaths of its members and several mass murders and suicides through the 90s. The OTS was a Neo-Templar order, claiming to be a continuation of the Knights Templar, and incorporated an eclectic range of beliefs with aspects of Rosicrucianism, Theosophy, and New Age ideas. It was led by Joseph D. Mambro, with Luc Jouret as a spokesman and second in command. It was founded in 1984 in Geneva, Switzerland.
So not Canadian.
Well, we'll get there. So, with that, I will get into my story for you. I hope you're ready, because this one's
so ready.
This one's fun. So, picture this. October 1994. 3 years before you were thought of.
It's true.
It
wasn't even a conception yet.
Not even. You were a star in the sky, right next to mine.
Aww, we were both stars in the sky.
So, emergency crews arrive at multiple burning properties in Switzerland. Inside, they discover bodies arranged in ritual formations. Some victims are wearing ceremonial robes, some have been shot, and others appear heavily drugged. At almost the exact same time, in Quebec, Canada, another fire reveals the bodies of an entire family murdered in what investigators believe was a ritual killing connected to the same group. Ooh. Over the next several years, more deaths follow in France and Canada, and by the end of it, 74 people are dead.
You know what? I could also see Quebec being a heavily culted area.
That was me too. When I was making the notes for this, I was like, you never would think of the French. But you know, the people I have met from Quebec are just weird enough where I'm like, I could see it.
That makes sense for them.
You know, I can see this for you.
It's in your future.
Tabernacle, my friend. You got some cult energy.
Them and their stinking maple syrup on a stick.
Oh, yep. Oh, the French. Anyways, so, unlike the stereotype people imagine when they hear the word cult, many of these members were wealthy, educated, middle-aged professionals. Doctors, business people, public officials, people with families, careers, and social status. This was the Order of the Solar Temple. And honestly, this case is one of the strangest combinations of occultism, manipulation, paranoia, ritual theater, and mass death that Europe has ever seen.
Ooh.
The Order of the Solar Temple, which has been often shortened to OTS, was founded in 1984 by two men, as I mentioned in my description, Joseph D. Mambro and Luc Jouret. Luc Jouret was a Belgian Luc Jouret was a Belgian homeopath and public speaker. He lectured on alternative medicine, spirituality, ecology, and self-improvement. By most accounts, he was charismatic, intelligent, and extremely persuasive. Joseph de Mambro was different. He was a French jeweler with a long-standing interest in occultism and esoteric movements. He also had a history of fraud, financial scams, and deception, and the relationship between these two men is important. Jouret was the public face, the speaker, the recruiter, whereas de Mambro operated from the shadows. He positioned himself as the hidden spiritual authority, someone who was supposedly in direct contact with the higher beings and had secret cosmic knowledge. Together, they built a belief system that mixed in the Knights Templar mythology, New Age spirituality, occult rituals, reincarnation, UFO beliefs, and apocalyptic prophecy into one highly secretive spiritual movement.
See, it's like the blending of what you and I talk about on this podcast in a whole.
Exactly. They've melded. They've mind melded.
Mind melt.
Most of their activity took place in French-speaking countries like Switzerland, France, and Quebec, which I find so interesting that they were like, yeah, this only the French are gonna know about this.
Yeah, only the French Canadians can be involved. The rest of Canada, not good enough.
Fuck you bitches. So then, you're probably gonna ask, okay, so then they're into some crazy shit, but like, what did they actually believe? Like, what was the whole point of this? So this is kind of where things get really strange. At the center of the Solar Temple's beliefs was the idea that humanity was approaching a major spiritual transformation tied to the coming of the Age of Aquarius. They believed that civilization was spiritually corrupted and nearing collapse, but elite souls could survive what was coming. According to the group, advanced spiritual beings, called the Ascended Masters, lived on the star Sirius and guided humanity from afar. Members believed that through spiritual purification and initiation, they could eventually transit to a higher existence connected to Sirius after death. And this word, transit, becomes incredibly important later, because within the Solar Temple, death was reframed as transformation. So you're not ending, it's a passage and escaping the doomed world into the next, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So then, the group also claimed spiritual descent from the medieval Knights Templar. Members believed that they repause. Repause is not a word. We're going to make it a word. So, members believed they were reincarnated Templars continuing an ancient cosmic mission across multiple lifetimes. Both leaders claimed past lives tied to important spiritual or historical figures. DeMambro claimed that he'd previously lived as an Egyptian pharaoh, one of Jesus' disciples, and was even an ascended master. Jurek claimed that he was the reincarnation of Bernard of Clairvaux, a figure associated with the original Knights Templar. At first glance, all of this sounds absurd, but the terrifying part is that people actually believed it. I just want you to remember that I want to make sure I got this right. I'm pretty sure DeMambro is the jeweler. Yeah. So a man who's making wedding rings is like, yeah, I had a past life where I was, just one of the disciples. In my past life, I was an Egyptian pharaoh. As he's just, like, making necklaces. Like, nonsensical.
That is nonsensical.
So, the Solar Temple was highly structured and deeply ritualistic. Members progressed through secret levels of initiation. Ceremonies involved robes, candles, swords, Latin chants, Templar symbolism, and elaborate rituals inspired by occult and pseudo-Masonic traditions. And the atmosphere was theatrical by design. Members were made to feel spiritually chosen, part of an enlightened inner circle preparing to survive the end of the world. And for many people, that feeling was powerful. Former members later described the group as emotionally immersive and psychologically intense. The rituals created a sense of mystery, destiny, and exclusivity. But behind the scenes, manipulation was everywhere. One of the strangest practices was something called cosmic marriage.
Blech. Whenever I hear shit like that, I know it's bad.
Right? You're like, oh, wow.
Great.
What a shock. What a shock. So, DeMambro would tell members that spiritual forces had revealed their true cosmic partners. Existing marriages were broken apart. Members were reassigned to new partners based on supposed spiritual compatibility. Some of these pairings...
That's crazy!
Yeah. This is basically... So this isn't, like, a true comparison, but this is basically the idea that somebody's like, you know what? Everybody's getting divorced. Let's look at your zodiac signs and then pair people up together based on their zodiac sign. Like, this is the same, like, frame of thinking, you know?
It's nuts.
So, some of these pairings like when people were paired with new partners, involved major age gaps and deeply uncomfortable power dynamics.
I can
So
imagine,
some of
they're
these,
probably not actually pairing them up on compatibility, but based off of what the creepy old men want,
pretty much. So there was a few of these that I saw, not as direct quotes on what those types of pairings were meant to say, because um obviously with the amount of deaths that we were talking about in the beginning, it's kind of hard to get a feel for some of these. But an example that was given was basically like a 74-year-old man with like a 19-year-old girl or younger.
Mm-hmm.
Or like as far as power dynamics, like a politician with like a housekeeper, like stuff like this, right?
Yeah.
So then ex-members later described the practice as manipulative and coercive. And then, of course, there was some yeah, which yeah. Mm-hmm.
That checks out.
Yeah. And then there was the cosmic child. DeMambro claimed his daughter Emmanuel was and by the way, it's not spelled as in Emmanuel, because for reference, if anybody's new to the show, Jen and I both grew up Roman Catholic. Emmanuel, another name of God, is spelled a particular kind of way. The way his daughter's name is spelled is like UL, like ELLE at the end. So Emmanuel.
Emmanuel, bitch.
Yeah. So Emmanuel was a spiritually significant being destined to guide humanity into a new age, and she was treated like a messianic figure within the group. And perhaps the most disturbing detail is how DeMambro manufactured belief itself. What he did in order to make people believe what he was creating for this cult is he staged fake supernatural experiences.
I'd do that. But for the fun of my cult group, not to scare them.
Make it a little spicy,
Exactly.
But
add some flavor.
Yeah, right? So he would do things like have hidden chambers, use lighting effects, secret passageways, illusions, and theatrical apparitions. So members believed that they were witnessing ascended masters physically appearing during rituals. In reality, many of these experiences had been engineered behind the scenes. And eventually, some members discovered the deception. That discovery would help begin the collapse of the group. So...
yeah. He was just a performer.
I know, like, everything about this is, like, he basically was like, I want to perform in the theater. He wanted to be the Phantom of the Opera. But then he's like, but I must have followers. So he just, like, it's just crazy.
Yeah, he's a wannabe magician, but also
magician,
I'm gonna have a cult.
Jeweler, Jesus' disciple, Egyptian, the Phantom of the Opera, an astrologer.
A man who wears many hats.
Right? So then, by the early 1990s, the Solar Temple was unraveling. Members were leaving, former followers demanded their money back, some accused the leadership of financial abuse and manipulation, which...
not surprising.
At the same time, journalists and anti-cult organizations began investigating the group more aggressively, and then things got even worse. Canadian authorities raided Solar Temple properties in Quebec after members were caught purchasing illegal firearms fitted with silencers. The media immediately took interest, and internally the pressure was building. DeMambro's staged miracles had been exposed by insiders. The group's finances were deteriorating, leadership conflicts were growing, and perhaps, worst of all, for DeMambro, his own daughter had reportedly begun rejecting the spiritual role that he had been forcing upon her. So the illusion was breaking. And as the group destabilized, the leadership became increasingly paranoid. They believed enemies, traitors, governments, and dark spiritual forces were conspiring against them. At the same time, the concept of transit became more extreme, and what has once sounded symbolic slowly became deadly literal. Now, at this point, it's like, okay, so cults happening, woo-woo shit, obviously people are like, you're doing things that are fucked up. So it's like, okay, but we were talking about a murder in Quebec in the beginning at the same time as, like, a bunch of people committing suicide in Switzerland. So, like, what's the deal there? So,
yeah.
let's talk about the Dutoit family murder. So, this is kind of the point where this story kind of crosses from being, like, more like a spiritualistic, kooky kind of, into a little bit more horrific. So, in 1994...
That usually comes with murder, for sure.
Yeah. There's nothing that really takes a darker turn for the worst when people die, especially through murder.
It generally dampens the mood, but I would love to hear what you have to say.
Thanks. In 1994, DeMambro became obsessed with the belief that a former member's infant son posed a spiritual threat. The baby's name
As they do.
There's nothing more threatening in this world than a child. You can quote me on that.
Same. I also have thought that.
So, the baby's name was Christopher Emmanuel Dutoit, and DeMambro believed the child was connected to the Antichrist, which...
Classic.
To me, this also starts to scream a little bit of mental illness, because it's like, okay, you're focusing on an ex-member's random baby, and now you're being like, he's the Antichrist, and these people are no longer even involved with your association.
Well, maybe that's why. They're like, they must have left because they birthed the devil himself.
Because the devil, of course. Then the devil's here. The devil
He's always here.
He's always here. The similarity between the names Emmanuel and his own daughter, Emmanuel, deeply disturbed him.
You know what? It disturbs me too.
The thing for me is, that's not even the baby's name. That's the baby's middle name. I don't even know if that really counts. Like, your daughter's name is your daughter's name.
There's only so many names on this world, You're bound to find a couple who share some. How many Emilys have you met in your life?
At least 50. If not more than that. There's so many of us.
Have met so many Jenns. So
it do be like
it
that.
happens.
But that's not allowed for him, because only his daughter can be named Emmanuel. So he reportedly believed that the infant threatened the destiny of his so-called cosmic child. And on September 30th, 1994, members of the Solar Temple murdered the Dutoit family in Quebec. The baby was only a few months old. The killings were ritualistic and brutal. This was no longer just manipulation or delusion. It was organized murder. And when I tried to look into the details on, like, because they brought up rituals a few times, understandably, people haven't really gone too much into the type of ritualism that happened with the family. That's like a thing. But to make you guys a picture that isn't just like basically murder porn, is when you're thinking to yourself like what a ritual looks like on TV, like when you're watching a TV show and they're trying to depict like a ritual killing, that's basically what they did.
Yeah.
So then, only days later, coordinated deaths occurred in Switzerland. Members gathered at Solar Temple properties in Cherry and Salvan. Some victims had been drugged, some had been shot, and some appear to have willingly participated. Others, most certainly, did not. Bodies were arranged ceremonially, and then the buildings were set on fire. Letters mailed by the group described the deaths as a spiritual transit to Sirius. But investigators quickly realized the situation was far more complicated than a simple mass suicide. Some victims had likely been murdered outright, others appear to have been assisted into death, and some genuinely believe that they were transcending into another existence. So, while the case is often labeled a mass suicide, that description is incomplete, because this was technically a combination of murder, coercion, manipulation, ritualized death, and genuine voluntary suicide all happening at the same time.
Yeah. It's like that cult where they all drink the Kool-Aid or whatever for suicide, where that's only the half-truth. A lot of them were gunned down and literally just shot and murdered because they didn't want to do it.
Basically the same thing. It was, you're dying. You get to pick how.
Good night.
Good night. It's like so sick. Like, especially like, so first you have the family being annihilated in such a horrific way, including a
Yeah.
literal baby, like an infant. And then this is what follows, is people being gunned down for days just to then be a
Yeah.
part of this like macabre display of, I don't even know what you want to call it. Like a fuck you to the universe, basically? Like, I don't get it.
I think it's like just the ultimate power move for them. Like, I am in control of whether you live or die, and I choose now that you're gonna die.
So sick. So somehow, even after all this, it wasn't over. Because even after both DeMambro and Jurette were dead, more members continued to carry out these transit rituals. And then in 1995, 16 additional members died in France in another ritualized mass death event. And then in 1997, 5 more died in Quebec. And some survivors, including children, were found drugged. What shocked investigators the most was that the movement continued after the founders' deaths. That suggests that the beliefs themselves had become self-sustaining, which means that it was no longer blind obedience to a charismatic leader. Members truly believed that the transit was real.
I think people get to a certain point where they're so brainwashed that there's no turning them back.
Mm-hmm. Well, I remember, like, I don't remember the specific cult because there has been a few that we've covered, but you did a story once where one of the survivors of the cult was talking about it years later in an interview or something, and they were talking to her in a diner, and she was saying that there's even still a small part of her that wonders if it was true. Like what they talked about in the cult. And I was like, that's so, like, it's like, tough's not the right word, but you kind of know what I mean. It's just, it's the level of brainwashing.
So
it's the level of, yeah, where it almost is a part of your psyche where you're just in a position of questioning and being like, is it true?
Especially when it's children in these cults, they're brought up in it and it just becomes their whole identity and it's all they know. So I feel like it's especially hard for children who are born into cults to break out because that's just their life. That's their reality. They know nothing else.
Oh yeah, and then you would also, I would imagine, if you are a child who grows up in a cult in some type of manner, navigating the world afterwards, especially when your upbringing was so different, is just a different type of hurdle that I would never wish on anybody. You'd have to relive what life is, and then you'd be constantly comparing every experience you have back to what you experienced as a kid. It's just so radically different.
It would be extremely hard, and I respect the heck out of anybody who actually manages to get out of those situations, because you would have to rewire your brain, and how you would even know how to do that after being in that situation, I don't know. But you'd have to be a really strong person to be able to do that.
Oh, absolutely. Children of cults and anybody who goes through like some sort of horrific situation like this are absolutely some of the strongest people that we have on Earth.
Truly.
So then, because most of the leadership died, very few people remained to prosecute. The primary person who was brought to trial was a Swiss conductor, Michael Tabernick, who had ties to the group and authored internal writings known as the Archies. Prosecutors argued that these writings may have encouraged members towards death, but Tabachnik, it's like Tabachnik, Tabachnik, sure. So he was acquitted twice. Nobody was ever definitively held criminally responsible for this larger tragedy, and because there was never satisfying conclusions, conspiracy theories just exploded from this. So some people claimed intelligence agencies were involved. Others blamed organized crime, political networks, secret societies, or money laundering operations. But despite decades of speculation, there was never any solid evidence that confirmed these theories. So, the Solar Temple deaths profoundly changed public attitudes towards cults in Europe, especially in France and Switzerland. The case became a major catalyst for the anti-cult movement in Francophone Europe. Governments launched investigations into sects and new religious movements, media panic spread, and for years afterwards, fringe spiritual groups were constantly compared to the Solar Temple. What disturbed the public most was who the victims were. These were not isolated teenagers living off-grid in a remote compound or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Many were educated, financially successful adults with careers, families, and respected social positions. And that forced people to confront a deeply uncomfortable reality. Intelligence, education, wealth, and professional success do not make people immune to manipulation, apocalyptic thinking, or belief systems that slowly detach people from reality. Even
Nope.
now, the Order of the Solar Temple remains difficult to fully explain. So, lots of people have done studies on this because, like, psychologically speaking, cults are endlessly fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
Because they engage in so many different types of people believing in something that feels so far out there,
Outlandish.
but to the point of destruction, where they're either killing themselves or they're murdering a literal baby, right? So,
Yeah.
some of the questions that people ask are like, was this really just because there was a a singular manipulative person who was in charge? Is it more than that? Was it because of this apocalyptic belief system and it was collapsing that caused them to then starting to write in the self-destruction aspect?
Mm-hmm.
Was this since the beginning a tightly controlled murder conspiracy? Or do you just really have it where simply people believed, based off of like the star and everything else, that death was considered transcendence? I think it's probably a mixture of all those things, personally. Yeah. Because I think people seldom do anything for just one reason, right? I feel like there would need to be a few things happening where if you have enough people who are on board with this, then obviously there's been things happening where people are like,
Yeah.
So that complexity is exactly why, to this day, people are still fascinated by this case, because we never really got an answer.
I unfortunately feel like that happens a lot with cults. It's really hard to actually like infiltrate them and get justice for these victims in a lot of cases. Mm-hmm. So I do feel like a lot of the times they get off way easier than they should.
Oh, totally. And what got me with this one was it feels so weirdly regressive and progressive at the same time, if that makes sense. So on one end you have a lot of folks who are considered upper crust people who are engaging in new age spirituality, which, like I said, is kind of like not like zodiac signs, but kind of like it's similar enough in that type of way of thinking. And then you have it in the opposite end, where they're doing things that you would literally expect out of medieval Europe, which was sacrificing people to the gods, or like the Aztecs or something. Like, it's just
calling each other footlickers.
Yeah, like, it's just weird, right? Like, it's weird to have that together in the same space. I don't know. Like, that's a weird one for me. And then for it to explode to such a degree where you're having almost 100 people die because of this.
That's a lot of people.
Mm-hmm. Right?
That's nuts.
And across, what I thought was interesting too was it was across Europe and Quebec, like Canada.
That is interesting, because usually the thing that works for cults is the proximity, right? They're usually confining them all to like one compound so that they can, spew all their crazy bullshit. But like, to have such a vast distance is pretty uncommon.
It is. And that was another thing too that I did some research into, because I was like, how's that even possible? So they didn't have compounds. They basically held meetings and they had settlements where people would just like live in specific areas, but it wasn't concentrated like typical cult compounds because it was so widespread. It just basically was like, yeah, if you're French and rich, you can be a part of this.
Come on down.
You're a doctor in Quebec? What's your phone number?
Join our cult.
You're Swiss.
Don't
like
name your child Emmanuel.
Yeah, you can join our call. You cannot name your child Emmanuel, or else we will be killing them expeditiously.
I guess they did not get the warning.
I don't know. That's an escalation, though, in a different way. I think the part for me on why I found it so jarring, this like random murder of this family and baby that was performed by the cult, is I feel like cults are so specifically like about their thing that deaths happening within the cult are what you expect. To have an ex-member being targeted and killed, and it's the 4-month-old that's the main target, specifically because of the name and the fact that they were ex-members or something. It feels to me so it's so specifically targeted. Like, you know what I mean? It doesn't, like, if the higher ups, which are these two guys, are the people who are, you know, pushing for this to happen, it's like, that to me says that there was either a lot more personal involvement with this family that is no longer a part of it, or there's a level of narcissism where they just could not handle the fact that there was this family that was no longer a part of their organization, and it just really rubbed them the wrong way, the whole Emmanuel thing.
I think there is a trend with cults where they do not take kindly to people leaving the cults, you know?
Yeah, like a personal issue. Like, they take it as if it's personal, but yeah, that's one of those things where I'm like, I just am really so sad that that family was taken out for just not wanting to be in a cult anymore. I feel like that's a very valid reason to not want to be in a cult. Number one is the fact it's a cult. And then number two, to want to live in not a cult and just to be alive. Like, I feel like those are all things that, you know...
Very valid requests.
At bare minimum, really. Honestly. Yeah. So... I don't know, but was there anything that specifically stood out to you as being strange outside of kind of what I already talked about?
No, I feel like we covered it.
All right. Well, in that case, welcome to the end. Welcome to the end of today's show.
The end of days.
Yes. If you liked today's episode, make sure to please leave us a review on wherever you're listening to our podcast. We do also have a website, which is www.wheelofcrime.com. You can check us out on there. We have our Patreon, which is Wheel of Crime at Patreon. We have our... What do we have? Email. wheelofcrime@gmail.com. Then we also have our social media, which is on Facebook, X, Instagram, and TikTok, all at Wheel of Crime. And lastly, if you listened to today's episode and you were like, I know so much about this cult because I live in France...
and Quebec.
And Quebec and Switzerland, you can write in and tell us all about it. We keep our listener stories form up on all of our social media. If you would just like to go on there and click the link, it'll take you to a Google form where you can submit an anonymous story to us sharing your episode, kind of, for our next listener episode. You can get a feature on it. We do not have a current date announced for our next listener's episode. I imagine we'll be doing one closer to the end of the summer, but up until then, feel free to write in and potentially get your feature on our next listener's episode.
Yes, and big shout out to our Patreon member, Heather. If you would like a shout out on the show too, you can hop over there, as Emily told you. But that's it. That's all. See you.
And become one of our sponsors.
Yes, we'll see you next week for another new episode. Okay, bye.
Bye.